Welcome everyone to the Beyond Access series. Tonight, we have an incredible conversation ahead of you and presentation here. The Beyond Access series is a free online webinar for families, communities, advocates, and friends of New York City Public Schools. This is hosted by the Special Education Office under the Division of Inclusive and Accessible Learning. We are thrilled to welcome you here tonight. We will begin shortly.
Thank you, Suzanne, and thank you, Carson. My name is Amalia Orman, and I have the privilege of working with the students who are going to be presenting tonight. They are student leaders from the Chancellor Student Advisory Council. They are a very diverse group within a bigger diverse group, and I just want to allow them to introduce themselves to you. And I want to let you know that they have so much positive energy. They have so much courage, and we talk about strength in vulnerability. And today Nick said that was strength in how to be human. So that's how we prepare for things like this, is just telling our stories and being ourselves and being powerful because they just can't help it. So we're going to start with introductions. We're going to do a go around. Eli, you can start us off and you can pass it to the next person. So go ahead, Eli. I'll let you kick us off.
Of course. Thank you, everyone. So lovely to meet you all. My name is Eli Nunez Carino. I am a 12th grader at the Celia Cruz Bronx High School of Music. My pronouns are they, them. And I am a leader who identifies as having a mental disability, but who also advocates for others and is very dependable. And I will pass it to Nick.
Hi, Amalia. Am I pinned?
Now you are.
Okay, thank you. Hi, my name is Nick Santino. I am a student at Millennium High School at P226. That is a special education that is actually part of the District 75 special education district. And I identify with having a physical disability. And I'll pass it off to Leslie.
Hi everyone, I'm Leslie. I'm a sophomore at Flushing High School. I was a student who had an IEP through elementary school and middle school, so I consider myself an ally to students with disabilities, and I define myself as a leader who's understanding and an advocate. I'll pass it to Aiden.
Oh, Aiden, you're on mute. It's okay.
Oh, my bad, my bad. Hello, my name's Aiden. I am a 10th grader at Benjamin N. Cardozo High School, and I am P993Q District 75 as well. I go by he, him pronouns, and I'll pass it off to Ethan.
Hi everyone. It's so good to be here. Welcome to all the people watching. So, hi, my name is Ethan Shu. I am a senior at Bard High School Early College Queens. So I am a leader who has had an IEP for their whole academic and schooling career. I still have an IEP. I am also a leader who greatly cares about others and values compassion and integrity. But yeah, welcome everyone. That's me.
Thanks, Ethan. This is Amalia. My name is Amalia Orman. I'm the student voice manager for New York City Public Schools, the student's advisor for the Chancellor Student Advisory Council. My pronouns are she, her. And I'm a leader who's an ally for students with disabilities. I'm a leader who values listening, and I'm both caring and action-oriented. Let's get into the discussion. So here's our first topic and question. We're going to think about inclusion. We're going to think about challenges and also positive experiences in school. So CSAC, I'd like for you to think about, how do you think students with disabilities experience the school climate, including their relationships with teachers and peers? what are some challenges and also what are some positive experiences you've had in these areas, and how can schools create more inclusive environments? So when it comes to inclusion, what's one challenge and what's one positive experience you've had? And Ethan, I'm going to pass it to you first.
Sure thing. So I guess I'm gonna start with really the challenge. So I would say from my personal experience, and I guess from what I observe, because I'm also a student with an IEP and being around other IEP students, I think the single greatest challenge is really being defined by that label of having an IEP or a student with disability, because oftentimes there are negative stereotypes that are associated with those with an IEP, physical disability, or other learning disability. We're going to talk more about stereotypes later on, but that's like the greatest challenge that I personally have dealt with, and something that I also have seen a lot with my other IEP peers and peers with disabilities. I guess when it comes to inclusion, um, I would say that a good thing is that, at least for me, there are still people that really see me beyond my title or the label of me being an IEP, that they really are there to listen to me and my thoughts, and they don't limit me to just these set of stereotypes that are often associated with having an IEP. And I think that could probably be applied to other peers with an IEP or learning disability. Um, but really, I can't speak the most broadly on what other IEP students face, because I haven't been 100% in their shoes, because we're not all the same. But that's just speaking from personal experience.
Thanks so much, Ethan. I'm going to bring in Leslie. I think you want to talk about a few identities at the same time.
Hey guys, so I do want to speak about different identities. One is being having an IEP and another one is being an immigrant. So I had an IEP through elementary school and middle school. I was also an immigrant, and that didn't make stuff easy for me because I was labeled as somebody who couldn't learn, and also falsely labeled as having a disability. That means that I can't express myself or I can't learn like other people. Well, I a challenge, that was one challenge, and the positive part was that I still met people that were like me, that were titled as dumb and that can't learn, and I overcame those challenges. Yes, and I'll pass it back to Amalia.
Thanks, Leslie. So it sounds like the label is something that no one appreciates, but you were able to meet people and students who are having similar experiences, maybe had similar experience of feeling labeled, and create community in that, and rise to those challenges and really overcome some of them. Aiden, I'm going to call you in next to talk about your experiences, either challenges and or positive experiences you've had in school.
Uh, Hello, my name's Aiden. We students with disability often, I feel like we often experience school in a unique way. Sometimes we can feel isolated or misunderstood by both peers and teachers, especially uh, if accommodations aren't fully provided or if there's a lack of awareness about their needs. I often mm, I often feel like teachers are sometimes not patient, or they don't take the time to understand each student's situation. It makes a big difference in how comfortable we feel. Positive relationships with peers also plays a huge role to improve schools. Um, it could also provide like resources like support staff in like group ag ag agit whoa uh advocacy. I think I said that right. That includes everyone and focus on fostering and understanding among students. I feel like creating an environment in kindness is the way to go.
Thanks so much, Aiden. I mean, I heard you talk about creating these environments that are affirming and also including advocacy. So using your own voice to advocate for yourself in those kind of affirming environments. I appreciate you sharing that. Before we move on to the next topic, I'd like to invite any of the students to, if you have an experience where you felt it's a good example of inclusion, something it could be in school, something could be out of school, maybe in a leadership group or anything else you've done. Before we move on to talking about some misconceptions, getting a little more in depth there, are there any experiences of inclusion that you want to uplift because you want to see more of something like that?
I guess I could go.
Sure.
So Aiden actually brought up a very good point about how teachers, would treat students of IEPs and disabilities and how they're not patient. But, and obviously that's something that I have experienced and something that many students of IEPs and learning disabilities experience. But a very big moment of inclusion that I've really experienced was during my very early days of schooling, in elementary school. There were these staff members, my counselor, the school psychologist, and a few other people who, I was a very emotional kid, and I'm still a very, very emotional kid, but more so back then. And I got angry all the time. I cried all the time, and it would have been very easy for people to shut me out and to really say I don't have faith or confidence in him or say a bunch of other things. But these adults in my elementary school, right when I was very little, they would allow me to talk with them. They listened to everything I had to say. They treated me like really beyond the fact that I had an IP. They really, they even gave me and my whole family, food at one point, at several points. They cared for me when I was sick. And those are the type of things that should not be so rare because people, regardless of your background, um, your whether you have an IEP or not, or other title that you are placed in, should be treated with that kind of kindness and compassion and really just that thoughtful listening that everyone should be entitled to. And that was something that I really was so fortunate to get that obviously I want to see a lot more of from students of IEPs and disabilities and other people. And that is something that really helped shaped who I am today and really helped me to grow into an advocate to really advocate and bring everyone in and uplift people and to be kind and compassionate to others. So that was just the experience I had. Really not a specific one, but it was something that spanned many years in my elementary school, and that's something that I still remember very fondly.
Ethan,
Passing it back to Amalia.
thank you for sharing that. And thank you for reminding us that we all can be validated in our feelings and that caring adults can go a long way to validate students in just how they're feeling. Um, let's switch gears. Let's get into a topic that I know you all want to discuss. So we're going to talk about some misconceptions, stereotypes that students with IEPs face. What stereotypes have you encountered personally or experienced? And how can we work together to create school environments where those stereotypes are challenged and students with IEPs are seen for their full potential? So what are some stereotypes you've encountered and how can we challenge them? Eli, I'm going to hand this off to you first.
Of course, and thank you, Amalia. I definitely feel that commonly students with IEPs or disabilities, or both, have experienced a lot of misconceptions. Me personally, I feel like a lot of the time when people encounter me and I tell them or I express to them that I have disabilities and I have these types of, you know, mental disabilities, they assume that I'm less than human or that I'm crazy. And they think these things where that I don't have feelings and that I won't necessarily care about the things that they say or the things that they do. And I feel like that's definitely a common misconception. I feel like we, as advocates and as leaders, should really be allies towards people who feel like that they can't step up and that they can't express themselves. I feel like it's very important for people like us, like me and Amalia and all the other panelists to advocate for those who feel like they don't have a voice and they don't have a space to speak. And everyone that's watching, I feel like you have a voice and that you have a place to speak and that it isn't limited to just people who have IEPs or people who have disabilities, even if you don't have one. I feel like a lot of us have that moral in us that understand that that type of misconception and those stereotypes are wrong and that we can advocate against them.
Thanks so much, Eli. I appreciate you sharing.
Stop sharing your screen now. Thank you.
Oh, am I hearing some other audio? Okay. Thank you, Eli. Thanks for sharing that. You all are sharing on a very personal level, so I just want to take a moment to thank you for that and how instructive that is, and how you're not alone in these experiences. I'm sure many people listening can relate, and it's very empowering to hear your reality reflected back to you in that way. So, Nick, I know you wanted to talk a little bit about this topic too, and I know you wanted to talk a little bit about expectations. What are misconceptions? What are realities? And how you've dealt with the expectations in school that you've faced.
You bring it up brings goosebumps. You are like, as like we're gonna like say you're making. I'm setting a scenario. You're in the IEP meeting with all your students, therapists, teachers, of other school support system, and you're trying to make goals you're for that student. Nick, Nick. Okay. Um, there's only so much you can do in like a 9-month school year. You have to make those expectation expect you have to make those goals seem feasible. Like something you can like something small for you might be big for me.
And how would people know?
Because because sometimes I work 10 times as hard than you work. Sometimes it's just the effort I put in.
Thank you for sharing. It makes me think that we have to listen to students
Uh-huh.
a lot more. Thank you for sharing, Nick.
You're welcome.
Thank you for sharing. And if anybody wants to follow up on this topic, especially if you have any experiences where people, yourself or others, actively challenge a stereotype or misconception, we'd love to hear that. We can move on to the next topic, but if anyone does have a story about a successful breaking of a stereotype or watching someone or experiencing a stereotype really be shattered or challenged, we would love to hear that story before we move on. I'll give you a moment, but I can do the next topic as well.
Hi everyone, I'm Leslie, and I myself broke some stereotypes that people had about me, especially the label that I can't learn or I just won't be good enough to pass to the next grade. I broke that stereotype by proving them wrong. My grades improved tremendously. And having an IEP is not always bad. It can help you in many different ways. I went from a 65 average student to a 92 average student. So I broke those stereotypes and proved those labels wrong. Thank you.
Leslie, hold on. That's incredible. That's a big jump. Like, what's one thing that you would advise schools or parents to do that helps a student make that kind of improvement? Like, what made the difference to you?
I will say start small. You don't have to make a big jump. Like, if you know a few words, start learning them well and knowing that you know it well, then you start jumping to bigger and bigger stuff. Just take it slow. Doesn't matter if it took a year. For me, it took a year and 9 months to be exactly. But yes, it starts small and you build up to it. Be patient.
Start small and you can be a Leslie.
Uh,
I love it. Okay, I'm gonna move on to the next topic. But if anyone has another story before I get started, feel free to share. But we're gonna move on otherwise to talking about self-advocacy. I know that being an advocate and being an ally is something that we talk about a lot in our leadership group. I know it's something that you all have experienced in your lives, both self-advocating and being allies to others. I know that's important to you. And I want us to talk about that for people to learn from you in that way. I know how self-advocacy is really crucial for you and other students with disabilities. But why do you think it's important for students with IEPs to have a strong voice in your own education? And also, what does it mean to be an ally to others? This could be others with a disability. This could be others from different groups. We have a very diverse group in CSAC, so sometimes we advocate for ourselves and sometimes we stand next to other people as allies. So can you share, question is, can you share a personal experience where you learned to advocate for yourself? And have you ever been an ally to someone else? And I'm going to pass this question first to Ethan.
Hello, everyone. This is Ethan again, and thank you, Amalia. Um, so for me, there were many, many points in my academic career where I had to advocate for myself. I think the earliest time was when I was in second grade. Um, I was really finding the work because I was in a self-contained class before I moved into an ICT class. So I was in a self-contained class for probably like 3, 4 years. Um, and I found the work there to be, too easy, not challenging enough. I just found the environment to be really not my thing. So I spoke to my related service providers, so that included my counselor, the psychiatrist, who were initially, the people that met and made the IEP for me. And I was like, can you guys maybe make a shift or adjust, make some changes to my classes because I said my concern, which was the work was too easy. I didn't really like the environment. I felt it to be too limited. And they clearly, listened and said, hey, I think he's right. Um, you know, his teacher told me us that he's doing very well. And because of that, I was moved into an ICD class within 6 months. A class with 2 teachers and 30 kids instead of a teacher and 12 kids. And what that really taught me was that self-advocacy is important, and students with disabilities advocating for themselves is extremely important because if you don't say anything, no one is gonna know what you want. And when I mean say anything, you don't need to be like a very forceful person or assertive. Even just saying, "Hey, I think some dot dot dot," "Hey, I feel like this," that itself is advocacy and self-advocacy and something that will make such a big and crucial difference. So that was really the earliest time I practiced self-advocacy on really as a student with an IEP and disability. Amalia, what was the second part of your question?
Well, that
Remind
was
me.
awesome, Ethan. Thank you so much. The other part, I know you're going to have something good for this, is in addition to being a self-advocate, have you ever experienced either being an ally for someone else, or have you ever experienced someone being an ally to you?
That honestly, I love that question so much because, yes, to both parts, I have really tried to spend my whole, 18 years that I've been on this planet, trying to, be an ally, and I've thankfully have had so many allies and supported people by my side. So to answer and how I'm an ally to other people. So I personally do not want to make myself and position myself as someone who knows everything that they go through or that they, that I should really dictate or advise them on what to do because I don't know enough about what they go through. Like I said in the very beginning, we are not all the same people. We have differences. Obviously, those differences make us strong, but at the same time, those differences also make me and should make all of us acknowledge that we all have different strengths, different weaknesses, and different ways of learning, different levels of learning and speeds of learning. And what I do is I listen to those that need my allyship and need my help. I listen and I educate myself on what they go through and the issues that affect them, because I feel like positioning myself as someone to advise or to lead when I don't know enough about the issue is not only really the wrong thing to do, but that also makes leadership is not all about always knowing the right thing to do. Like not always knowing everything. Yes, that's what I meant. Knowing everything. A very large part of leadership is to soak in the experiences of other people, experiences that you may not be the most familiar with, and say, I'm here to listen. I stand with you. I'm here to support you. And what can I do to help you? Those are the questions and words that guide me as an ally. And I suggest and I advise should really help guide everyone else because we too often feel like in leadership, it's take action, lead, and know everything. But leadership is also step back and say, I'm here to support you, um, and I'm here to help you. And that is something that I experienced as someone who has been an ally, and people who have been ally to me, they've all really acted in that manner instead of the really leadership, know everything type of person. And yeah, thank you, Amali. Passing it back to you.
Then thank you for breaking down some misconceptions about leadership and allowing all of us to participate as leaders because we can all listen and learn. Thank you. I hope everyone was taking notes. Eli, I'm going to call you in. You have had many different leadership experiences. I'm excited to hear what you had to say in response to this question about how you've grown to be an advocate for yourself and how you show up as an ally and how others show up as allies for you.
Of course, Amalia. Hello, everyone, again. This is Eli. Um, I definitely think that it's important to recognize that not everyone will have the same experiences in school. And personally, during my freshman and sophomore years of high school, I had to have a paraprofessional with me. And one time with one of the paras that I had, she would leave me. She would leave the room when she's supposed to watch me at all times. And I recognized that that wasn't okay. I recognized that I needed her support and I needed her presence, but she wouldn't advocate for my needs and my wants. So I directly went to admin because they're the ones that assigned me the paraprofessionals. And I advocated that my paraprofessional isn't providing me with the needs and the wants that I have. And with that, I had my para swapped out and I met a paraprofessional that really accommodated me. And I'm very close to her still, even in my senior year. And it's definitely great. But besides that, I feel like it's very important to recognize that it may be difficult to go against what other people are doing or what other people are saying. But when you know that it's wrong and that it isn't correlating with what you need, then definitely advocate for yourself. And in my school community, I am now a peer mediator. So because of that, I am an ally to many. When I've peer mediated situations, people still come to me after such with their issues and come to me to talk to me about anything that they're worried about. And I feel like with a lot of situations that I've dealt with, it's never about who's right or wrong. It's more of just trying to solve the conflict and to create a space where we can both coexist.
Amazing. Thank you, Eli. And thank you for reminding us that sometimes when you stand up for yourself, it requires a lot of bravery. and requires stepping outside of your role, sometimes speaking to people in positions of authority to get what you need. And thank you for that reminder, and also how you show up for others when they need support for that. All right, everyone, we're going to be taking a moment to talk about action steps, and also to uplift anything that you feel like hasn't been spoken to in this discussion. So everyone's going to get the opportunity to respond here. And I just want to thank you for sharing your experiences and your insights and your leadership in such powerful ways. So let's do that one last time, everyone. You've shared a lot of experiences, you've shared some ideas. What are some actionable steps that students, education leaders, teachers, parents, allies can take to ensure that voices of students with disabilities are heard, needs are met, and identities are celebrated in our school communities? How would you inspire us to continue a conversation like this beyond today and contribute to some lasting changes? What is one actionable step you think we can take? Nick, I'm going to hand it to you first.
I would really like to preface. I'm not sure if I said the right words, but I would really like to have the parents, the guardians, take away from this expectation versus reality. What is my child able to do? What's appropriate for my child to do? He might not be able to do his times tables. Let's start from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That may be appropriate, and we can reevaluate, and we can see in their portfolio how much they have grown, and we can go the next year. We can like, oh, he's really gone with his 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 counting. Maybe now it's time for like skip counting. You know what are they good at, and what is not? Oh, what's too easy, what's too hard?
Thank you, Nick. I also heard you say before that parents and guardians know their child best.
Yes, can you please unmute Stephanie Jamalio? Because she had something really important to say, and I want her to say it, and I just saw it in the chat.
Hi, Nick. I was just agreeing with what you said. You totally got it right about meeting students where there are. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Nick, that's just like you to affirm someone else in the group right now. Who do you want to pass it to from CSAC to answer the question next?
Who? Aiden. Aiden. I don't know. Aiden. Aiden, are you there?
Yes, I am there. Okay. I feel like the middle ground is helping people. Oh, my name is Aiden, my fault. The middle ground is helping people understand disabilities better. One way is to do this through like student-led talks, class presentations, or social media posts that teaches other about disabilities. But sometimes that might not work because I feel like from a personal experience, my experience, eighth grade, people didn't take that seriously. People didn't see it as a big deal. It's just I feel like I don't want to group them. I feel like we as a community, we as human beings should everyone is human. That's like my whole entire thing. We're all human. We're all the same person. Yes, we might have a hard time facing something. We might not be able to do our times tables, like Nick said. We might not be able to count the ABCs. We might not be able to speak English properly. But we're all human at the end of the day. And I feel like everyone should be treated with respect at least. And I feel like everyone should what's the word? I don't want to mess it up with something else. I feel like everyone should have a voice and a vision on what they think, and everyone should be heard. That's my like take on it and my middle ground. I feel like we should be able to all agree on.
Aiden, and I just want to congratulate you for using your voice more and more in CSAC, and you always have something incredible to say. So keep making your voice heard. And who do you
Thank
want to
you.
pass it to next?
Who do I want to pass it to? There's so many great people here.
Mhm.
I'm gonna pass it to Ethan.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Aiden, but I
Welcome.
actually want to use this time to pass it to Eli or Leslie, um, because I think that they both have, well, not only are they extremely dedicated student leaders, but they have extremely good recommendations. Um, so I would like to pass it to either of them. So if either one of you guys would, unmute yourselves, feel free to do so. I'll reserve my talking time for a little later. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, I guess I'll go first. Hi everyone, my name is Leslie, and I think a common ground is spreading awareness of these disabilities because there's many out there. There's just not students with IEP, there's many disabilities. Also, we should spread how it affects people, and we should open up committees with people with disabilities running these committees, and also adults, parents, guardians. Yeah, so they could be included and have them advocate for each other. I'll pass it to Eli. Thank you.
Of course, and those are incredible points, Leslie. This is Eli. I definitely think that it's important to recognize that like creating inclusive spaces and communities for students who have disabilities and have these IEPs is like the basis of creating a good environment for all. And I definitely think creating like councils or creating student forums where students with disabilities can share their voices, their experiences, and their ideas is a great place to start. But also initiating trainings and awareness programs for specifically teachers, students, and staff who are surrounding these students with IEPs and disabilities, including myself, that often makes or breaks the situation, making sure that none of these students or teachers or staff have these ideologies or stereotypes that like overthrow the want to create these better communities.
Eli, before we pass back to Ethan, I don't want to put you on the spot, but in one of our preparations, you said something about being mindful of trauma. Like an action step is to use a trauma-informed approach. I just felt like that was very deep. Can you say a little bit about that as an action step, an approach we can take?
Yes, of course. I definitely think that it's important to recognize the trauma that IEP students and people with disabilities have. I feel like we've experienced a lot with the little amount of time that we've been here and been going through school. There's a large amount of issues that we have to deal with that we shouldn't have to. And I definitely think that trauma-based approach, like correlating to restorative justice that I do a lot in my school community, is extremely important to recognize. It's extremely important to take it slow with people with disabilities and IEPs and to allow them to speak themselves and allow them to advocate for what they want to create and what they need and what they want. Because honestly, they shouldn't have to be in an environment where they don't feel welcomed and they don't feel wanted.
Thank you so much. Thanks for sharing. And let's bring Ethan back to close us out. And Ethan, you are in our group at CSAC, you make a lot of efforts to make people feel included, all different kinds of people. So I think you're a great person to close us out on how to create a welcoming, affirming environment where people are advocates and allies. What's your action step that we need to know? You're on mute.
Okay, sorry about that. You guys can hear me now, right? Okay, thank you, Amalia. I just want to take this time and close and speak from the heart, and just say that I honestly think the biggest action step that we could take, as in me, all the panelists, all the people watching here, and really even beyond the people watching here, is we need to look into our own souls, and not souls, but like look into ourselves and say, are we doing the right thing? Are we treating people the way we want to be treated? Um, am I treating someone with the kindness, the compassion, the acknowledgement, the empathy that they deserve and that they deserve? Because while we talk so much about, we talked a lot about students with disabilities and IEPs, and that is one of the many um, groups and also people who suffer, who hurt, who really go through things that obviously inflict such a horror and extremely traumatic and such sadness and anger in our society and humanity. And I think when we see the humanity in everyone, we reject the labels, as I mentioned early on. We say, Ethan a student with just an IEP? So he's a special ed kid, or is Ethan a student who wants to talk to others, who loves to socialize, who want to include others, who loves advocacy, loves politics, loves history. Um, those are the things that we as humans have the capacity to do. We could always say this person is this race, this disability, this um, sexual orientation, and label them as such and just say, well, because they're that, they are these list of things that people often use as talking points for such hatred and discrimination. Or we could say, no, these are people who love others, who care about others, who want to be loved, who deserve love. And I think once we ask ourselves those questions and think and consider those as we think to ourselves and interact with others, we could actually move towards a society where people, everyone, those affected by so much, loss and despair and grief and other hardship, and just say, you got this, we're here for you, and we're here to support you, and that everyone has that voice, has that power to be someone who can make a difference in society, who could really just say, we are not IEP students versus general education. We are, as Aiden and other people mentioned, we are humans. We all hurt. We all feel emotions. We all feel things like anger and sadness and love. And I think once we remind ourselves of all that, we could see the common ground and common humanity in each other, in ourselves, and that will create a society where everyone and people are uplifted, loved, cared for, and supported. Thank you, Amalia.
Thank
And
you.
thank you to all the parents and people watching.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Ethan. And you definitely did just deliver a soulful closing. So you should never apologize for that. It is what we need right now.